Bread and butter. Sam and Dean. Two examples of things that just go perfectly together, and the last one on that list is Doctor Who and music. From the very first episode 60 plus years ago, music was integral to Doctor Who, thanks to the mesmerising theme written by Ron Grainer and put together by Delia Derbyshire, which led to the iconic sound of the Doctor Who titles, which even that we now have many variations upon. And I think Doctor Who has a very symbiotic relationship with its music, at least in its modern era, where stories are told through the music just as much as they are through the writing and the visuals. Of course, this is now about 20 years of music we're talking about, so I figured the best way to go into it is cutting it into 3 sections. The way I describe Gold's music with Doctor Who is bombastic. It's truly loud and huge in scale. Honestly, Gold's music was always something I really wanted to see live. The music almost feels like it's a part of the script. In Series 1, honestly, it's quite melodramatic, especially everything with Rose and her family. I mean, if we compare the track Hologram to later ones used in Regenerations, there's quite a big difference. The entire sound of Series 1 to me is quite ethereal compared to what came after. This would kind of follow into Series 2, but Series 3 and 4 felt much more action orientated, action sci-fi, really presenting the 10th Doctor as an action hero. Tracks like the Master Tape and Yana, great for high octane chase, but there was always a good balance, something like This Is Gallifrey, an awesome tune that honestly portrays the image of the planet just as much as the Doctor's speech does. Song of Freedom as well as Life Amongst the Distant Stars, greatly emotional and huge scale pieces of music. But along with that more action-orientated sound, I think we feel that in the update to the titles in Series 4, which is probably my favourite incarnation of the title sequence. Despite the 2005 update being perfectly modernised, the louder and deeper drums and bass in the Series 4 opening is nothing less than incredibly hype. Regeneration scenes often bring some of the most memorable tracks as well. When it came to Smith's regeneration, along with the episode itself, it felt like a culmination of his 3 seasons. The track that plays throughout his regeneration is a combination of Trenzalore, the Long Song, and I Am Information. The Long Song itself was an integral piece of music from the episode Rings of Akaten from earlier that series, featured in a scene where the Doctor makes a huge speech about his life, so it's an incredibly fitting return here as he's leaving this life and going into the next one, essentially. It's remixed and repurposed, and it is sad, of course it is, but it can be sad whilst also being hopeful, and I prefer the sad yet hopeful approach to regeneration on the whole. That's also why I personally prefer a track like The Shepherd's Boy to Veil Descent. Veil is an excellent piece of music, genuinely phenomenal, but it is much sadder in tone. It's tear-jerking and works very well for Ten's final moments. It makes the moment feel like a valiant goodbye, but it's more tragic than hopeful, which is still great, it's just a personal preference. Another aspect of Gold's music that I always liked was his ability to craft tone so effectively. Midnight is a great track, for example, featured in the episode of the same name. It's just haunting. The start of the track rises for about 40 seconds before dropping into this bone-tingling humming that I can only associate with death and dread. It continues into aspects of dangerous curiosity, and almost without us having the time to realize it, transitions into terrifying panic in a motif that would again be featured in The Well earlier this year. I feel a similar way to the music used in Blink and Time of Angels. There's an old wheel spinning sound effect used in Blink that is forever associated with the iconic Weeping Angel villains now. Now, I would be amiss not to discuss The Shepherd's Boy in full. It's the 10-year anniversary of Heaven Sent, and so therefore also this track, but it might actually be a surprise to you that the track was used before, or at least a variation of it. Back in the 50th anniversary, the moment the 3 Doctors come up with the plan to save Gallifrey, a part of the song features in the track This Time There's 3 of Us. And so we really got to see this piece of music evolve, and I think that's honestly beautiful. We see it there in a key moment in the Doctors' lives as they come up with this life-changing plan that means everything to them, dealing with something that has haunted them for so long. And then when it returns in Heaven Sent, it's so much bigger and emotionally charged. It's a beautiful piece of music. The speech of the same name in Heaven Sent is replicated in many ways through the music. It feels like it will never stop rising, a constant spiral getting faster and faster, until we triumphantly break through the diamond, jump the hurdle. Also used in 12's Regeneration, where during Capaldi's pitch-perfect speech battling with himself for purpose, he finally decides to continue on through the song The Shepherd's Boy. It's when this song plays again that he decides he's going to keep going. I also wanted to say that I love the titles for the Capaldi era. I think the ticking clocks and the cogs turning and waking up is awesome. It makes it feel like the TARDIS is waking up. It also has some of my favourite variations with the guitar cover, as well as some of the Christmassy variations. Lastly though, on this era of music in Who, I've got to talk about maybe the most popular and definitely the most used piece of music, which is I Am the Doctor, the main theme for the 11th. It's a brilliant piece of music and I don't think anyone can deny that. It's heroic, it's bold with hints of chaos, just as there is with 11 as a character. But this does bridge me to my flaws with Gold's time at this point. I think in Series 7 particularly, I started to feel the heavy reuse of a few themes, especially with I Am the Doctor. Every time we were concluding the episode, it just started to take you out. This would somewhat continue into the Capaldi era, where there would be more reused tracks to a bit of a notable extent, and it almost felt like, to me, Gold's music became strained in its relationship with the show. This isn't to say that the music suddenly became bad, I don't think that at all. I loved 12's theme, and even though his motif was regularly used, it was remixed and repurposed well enough to not be too distracting. But in a general sense, there was just more notable reusing of themes both from the past and within this own era. And also Clara's theme. I don't love it. I just don't think it suits Clara as a character. It's way too innocent for the person that she is. I actually think the guitar cover in Hellbent works for Clara as a character more than her normal theme does. But Series 10 did bring a bit of a fresh take for the music. I think especially in its finale, having a very dystopian tone to me and feeling very final, but in a beautiful way. It's kind of hard to talk about because it's not been released yet. I mean, we've got it eventually, I guess, so you know, I'll do a full review on that if you want. Overall, Gold has consistently had a great run on the show, with the Disney era has spent over 10 years making music for Doctor Who. But I've rambled on here for probably a bit too long, and we've got time to talk about Gold in a little bit, so let's move on for now.
I'm Segun, and I'm the composer for the new series of Doctor Who.
Segun Akinola's music couldn't be more different from Murray Gold's, but I have to say, I think he's made my favourite title sequence along with Series 4. Akinola's work feels much more ambient, and I've gained more appreciation for that over the past few years, because it also meant that if there was something bigger and louder, it was more impactful. 13's theme is the first one of note I want to discuss, because I think it works for Jodie's performance and incarnation so well. We have some truly beautiful vocals on the track, and we slowly start to add minimal instruments as it progresses, and it becomes this confidently inspiring tune that is both heroic and emotional, but not in a sad way, in a way that is excited for what's ahead. This would be used somewhat regularly throughout the era, and I think its best use is in the final track and scene of the Chibnall and Wicker era with 13's Regeneration. The actual track used is called She's the Doctor, and it's just an epic piece of music. It's a sad goodbye but promises excitement for the future, whilst also appreciating what's come before. It's about 6 minutes and takes us on a real journey, accompanying one of my favourite regenerations in the show. During Spyfall, we got the return of the Master, and so therefore a new track for that called the Spy Master. This theme is so good, it builds tension throughout the first bit before slowing down and creeping to its climax. And through some spine-tingling notes makes you curious but feel uncertain before suddenly crescendoing into mischief and malevolence, representing this incarnation of the Master perfectly. Series 12 also has The Lighthouse, which was used when we found about the Fugitive Doctor. It works so well as a big reveal track. It feels adjacent to 13's theme but with a slight twist. We also get some great villain and sci-fi horror tracks, particularly involving the Cybermen. I think the lone Cyberman who first shows up in Haunting of Via Diodati, this Frankenstein's monster of a being closer to human than robot, and one of my favourite things to come from the era, comes with the bit of music called A Traveller Moving Through Time. It's so good, somehow as equally hype as it is terrifying. The thudding that grows louder until kicking into full Terminator gears. The theme for the Cybermen here is awesome overall. It feels very rock and very panicked and very sci-fi, robotically apocalyptic. The Daleks also get some great music throughout. The Death Squad, I think, is an awesome track used in Revolution. The repeated motif that was remixed multiple times when we saw the Daleks, it did help bring threat back to them, I found. Funnily enough, there's another track called I Am the Doctor from Segun Akinola, but there's no relation to Gold's version. The only thing they share is the name. I believe this was actually used when the Master assumed the body of the Doctor in the final episode. It's a perfect bridge of rising dread and an emotional climax into a goosebump-inducing sound that ignites despair in my brain. To critique this era of music, I would say there are too many scenes where people are talking and there is just that ambient kind of humming. You know, it's good and it can be effective, but it was just different variations of it we used all the time. It felt like they were scared of letting the scenes sound natural, but nonetheless, I think Segun Akinola brought some inspired work to the show. The Gold returned with the now hated RTD. And I was buzzing just as much for Gold as I was for Davis, I think. And I got to feel that, especially in the Star Beast and the Giggle. There were a lot of motifs that had been previously used in big moments that we definitely recognize, but they were repurposed, repackaged very effectively. They didn't feel like they were just being copy and pasted, which happens a bit in this era. We hear new versions of the Doctor's theme and hologram on the Doctor Forever. Loads and loads of audible Easter eggs that I love. But when it comes to the actual shooty era, it's kind of hard to talk about because none of it's been released. So there's only 2 tracks I really feel able to discuss in full, which is Joy to the World because it was used in the Regeneration, and 15's main theme. And when it comes to 15's theme, I really like it. I think it's a lot of fun. I actually wish we heard it a little bit more. I think because of the volume of Dr. Light episodes, we don't get enough of his associated music, which is a real shame. But the theme itself is notable and very good. Very reminiscent of I Am the Doctor, heroic yet chaotic, and just full of joy. Speaking of joy, Joy to the World features for the first time in that Christmas special, and then again in the reality war in Ncuti's final scene. I really like this piece of music. I think similarly to past regenerations, it's a sad goodbye whilst also hopeful and joyful for the future. It's a track that rises in isolation, but by the time the music really starts blasting, you can't help but be feeling welcome and within safe arms. Other episode scores that I do kind of remember liking are 73 Yards, crafting some very creepy atmospheric music. Story in the Engine had some really cool music throughout. I liked the soundtrack to the reality war. It felt big scale, energetic, big stakes, and emotional, even if the scenes weren't great. Ruby's theme is top tier, one of my favourite companion themes throughout the whole show. It pokes at the mystery of the character as well as the elements of tragedy. Otherwise though, so much of this era feels like versions of his original run reused. And I think that's acceptable in an anniversary. There was a lot that felt a bit out of place for me. The one big instance I remember that was really distracting was in Lux, where we hear Amy's theme. And it has no relevance, so it just totally takes you out, and all I can think is that it feels lazy, and I genuinely don't understand what the point of it is. I think this is also the worst mixing of the era. There are multiple scenes where it's a bit too loud, and I think that overall feeling of laziness isn't helped by the fact that we've not had any of it released. I don't think the era has bad music per se. I'd argue there's some pretty strong scores across the board, but I'm not a big fan of this intro either. The only one I prefer it to is Series 7B, and it doesn't help that these titles never seem to fit with each other, and I kind of have to take that into account when talking about a title theme. And due to Gold seemingly forgetting how to release music, I can't really talk much more about this era. But we did get the first appearance of Murray Gold in the show, which is well deserved. We get a brief shot of him playing the piano in The Devil's Chord. And this episode does have some great stuff. I kind of would have expected more from a musical orientated episode, but nonetheless there's some fun music stuff. Where Is My Dog? I don't know if that was Murray Gold or RTD, but There's Always a Twist at the end is a lot of fun. I really enjoy that. It doesn't really make sense to be there. Everyone just bursts into song and dance for no apparent reason, but I think it's very catchy and it's really fun.
This has been an absolute joy.
So one of my favourite scenes where music really hits in the show is in the Series 10 episode, The Pilot, the first episode, and the Doctor can't bring himself to wipe Bill's memory. In the music, we hear a small bit of Clara's theme. Making it clear somewhere in his subconscious that pain remains. The music does a lot, whether to help us know how to feel and emphasize something, to change the tone of a scene. It's natural that all of these things don't always work the way intended. As good as Gold's time has been, with some truly beautiful tracks, more than I've had time to mention, like Doomsday, gut-wrenching and powerful. Face the Raven sees the motions of putting on a brave face in front of oncoming death. But spending 10 years plus on the show, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing to let more people give it a go. I'm really excited to hear Lorne Balfe's score for The War Between. The music of Doctor Who packs equal emotion to the writing itself. They tell their own stories, and I think the show itself knows that. Which is why it's even more frustrating that for some reason, Murray Gold's ability to release music is about as good as the Duffer Brothers making TV shows within reasonable time. There's now a big gap of music missing. I mean, I know the Series 10 soundtrack is coming out in a couple of days when I'm recording this, but that's been almost 10 years. So we have no idea. Is it going to be another 10 years till we get the 60th in the Disney era soundtracks? I don't know. But to end the episode, I want to reference a line from Clara in Hellbent, a line that has stayed with me. Maybe people can get lost over time, but that doesn't have to mean forever, and maybe they even evolve into stories. And as the Doctor plays Clara's theme on the guitar, she suggests that maybe some become songs.
That would be nice.